Arsenal, the Gunners, the Gooners, one half of the North London derby, a team that holds memories. Anfield 88-89, the Invincibles team. Since they left Highbury, they have hit a brick wall. Finances, Wenger out, player power. Despite a few FA Cup glories, Arsenal have not been the force of old. However, that was until this season. One man, and one man only, has turned them around. Mikel Arteta has them bouncing again. Can I do the same? Welcome to Arsenal, the Beta Save. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and thank you for joining me on the first FM23 content right here on the channel. Yes, if you follow me on Twitter, you probably would have seen this teased a good while ago, and finally we are getting to sit down and play Football Manager 23, and that means we are in the beta phase, and the first of those two saves that I was teasing a couple of months ago is now starting to come to life. Today we're going to be kicking off the Arsenal beta save. So I picked Arsenal as a team to do in the beta probably a couple of months ago, just before the Premier League season started. Could see what Mikel Arteta was doing in real life and the way he was trying to build the team. Thought his project looked interesting. I didn't actually think that Mikel Arteta would be able to do what he's actually doing with Arsenal. They have started off fantastically, so I thought there might have been other teams that would be more popular as a beta save, but it seems that Arsenal, with the way they're going, and everybody intrigued to see if they can continue on that path, it seems they are quite a popular choice. But that just means that I'm going to have to work harder in this save to go above and beyond to get the results that I think Arsenal deserve in the beta save. So today we're going to kick off. You can see we already have the game loaded. A little shout out to OPZ for the skin. If anybody wants the skin, I will leave a link in the description down below. You can go to FM Scout and download that. There is 3 different versions of the skin. They are all fantastic, great work from OPZ as per usual. But yes, we're going to start off here. We are in the inbox. We're going to run through some emails that have come in at the start of the game. We are then just going to go through the tabs on the side. You can see we've got the club vision, the finances, the club info. Going to have a little look at some transfer targets maybe, and players that I would like to see brought into the team. We're also going to have a little look at how the squad works, and also that new squad planner, so you can see how the squad might look in a couple of years, and also any players that would fit into the starting 11 and where they will be. So we have a lot to get through. We're going to crack on. Let's go through some of these emails that you can see on the screen then. So you can see Frankly FM84 has taken the Arsenal hot seat, and today we have been confirmed as Arsenal's new manager, given a generous £72,000 per week. As you can see, they've booted Mikel Arteta out the door because we took over before he even had a chance to do the job that he's been doing in real life. So we have got rid of him, and we are going to have a crack at getting Arsenal to the top of the Premier League. You can see at the bottom, obviously, when you start the game, you are a brand new manager and you do not have any experiences. So it says, we lack the reputation of a title specialist, which, given the club's current ambitions, creates an intriguing dynamic as they intend to challenge for major honours. So we have it all to do. And obviously, one of the new dynamics in this game is the fact that the club and the fans can now influence everything that's going on. So your board and the fans can have a look at your performance, and that will affect what is going on at the club and also how you are graded as a manager. So we're going to skip over this players in the last year of the contract. We have dealt with a few of these, just run through a few of the players. So we triggered El Nani's extension. We've got Reece Nelson's been offered a contract. Charlie Patino, obviously, is a really good kid who has come through the youth ranks. I think he's out on loan at Blackpool at the start of the game, so we want to make sure he's tied down for the future. You got Marcelo Flores, Miguel Aziz. There are a few other players on there that we haven't made decisions on, and then there are a few pretty much just players that are there to make up the youth teams. Some of them just aren't going to make it. It's sad, really. That is the way football works. You have loads of kids and you pick the best ones and you turn the rest of them away, which is a pretty savage way to go. But as is life in Football Manager, you can only have the players that you can use, and the ones that don't make it, hopefully find a home somewhere else. Right then, so tactical direction is required. I have already selected the tactic. I will reveal that in a couple of sections time. We'll just skip past this one for now, but what we will show you is the new supporter profile update. So obviously, as I was just saying, the fans now get a say as to what is going on really at the heart of the club. So you can see it says the supporters profile at Arsenal is hardcore fans 8%, core fans are 27%, family fans 24%, fair weather fans 15%, corporate fans 4%, which is quite low for Arsenal. I would have said that they would have had a lot more corporate fans than that. And then casual fans is 22%. Looking on the right hand side of that screen, supporters' influence on the board is low because Arsenal's board is quite headstrong and they will do the things that they want to do. In terms of their social media following, 19.4 million followers on the social medias. Season ticket holders, 42,000 of those. And season ticket waiting list currently stands at 75,120. So Arsenal obviously could fill that stadium again and almost again with just the waiting list and the current season ticket holders. So a really well-liked club, obviously. Arsenal going through that period of dominance in the 2000s, also the late 90s, so they built their reputation, and they, although they haven't been that team for a while, they still have that core following of fans that will always flock to Arsenal and want to support the team. So looking at the bottom part of this screen then, so supporter, culture and expectation. So the fans now want things. They want us to play attacking football. They want us to play entertaining football. They want to finish above Tottenham in the league. Who wouldn't? Finish above Manchester United in the league. Be competitive against Chelsea. So they obviously think Chelsea are as strong, if not stronger than Arsenal currently. And they want to qualify for the Europa League. So we don't want to do that. We want to go one better than that. We want to qualify for the Champions League. And yes, we want to be competitive against the other teams that they want us to be competitive against too. So it's interesting to see that new dynamic coming in, because obviously now we are not just being marked against what we do by the board, but also the fans will start to speak up, and then you've seen what fan power, player power can do in a club. Hopefully we don't go down that path of having to keep the fans on side to keep our job. I'd like to be ahead of the curve and just constantly running with the ball. Right then, that brings us nicely on to what the club want to do, and Stan Kroenke has pulled me to one side and he's given us the club visions and expectations meeting. So this is what the club now want. The club want us to sign players under the age of 18 for the future, increase the commercial revenue, work within the wage budget, sign players to sell for a profit, grow the club's reputation. Informational objectives going forwards. So they want to challenge for the Europa League this season, qualify for the Champions League going forwards, reach the latter stages of the FA Cup and be competitive in the Carabao Cup. So obviously Arsenal know that in terms of European competitions, they can win the one they're in, and they want to be competitive in those domestic trophies, because that is probably the route that they are going to take in real life to get some silverware on the board. Obviously, not this season, maybe if they can keep up with Manchester City and Erling Haaland, it might be different in real life. But in terms of the game has been realistic. Those are the trophies that they want. So going forwards, they want us to work towards challenging for a Premier League title. Contract gets renewed at the end of 24-25 season, and they want us to work towards challenging for the Premier League title going forwards. So all of those seem in order. Let's hit accept the club vision. Mr. Kroenke goes back into his office and we can go about our business. So squad selection rules, obviously for the Premier League. You probably have managed in the Premier League before if you're watching this, but it's a squad size of minimum 15, maximum 25. Our current squad size is 20 in the Premier League. Players trained in England for 3 years before their 21st birthday is a minimum of 8. And then in the Europa League, it's max 25, minimum 15, 2 minimum goalkeepers in the squad. And no real problems hitting any of them, because Arsenal are quite good with the way they built their squad before the game. Finally, normally we would be meeting the press, but if you've watched the channel before, we're kind of lazy when it comes to press conferences and the like, so we aren't going to be dealing with the media in this save, and we're just going to shoo them off to one side. So With all the initial emails wrapped up, we are now going to jump into the side tabs. Let's go and have a little look at some club info, give you some background on Arsenal, before we then turn our attention to the finances. We have already seen the club vision, and then we'll move forwards in the next section. So we move on to the club information page. So you can see, obviously, in the OPZ skin, laid out slightly different to the original skin, but we'll start off on the left-hand side anyway. You can see Arsenal are a 4-star continental reputation club. 4-star in terms of their finances, so they're secure. In terms of the training facilities, it's 4.5 stars. Youth facilities is 4 stars. Junior coaching, 3.5 stars. Youth recruitment is only 2.5, with a potential 3-star, so it's a good youth recruitment. See the kits nicely on display there. They have a red home kit, a blacky grey type away kit, and then the pink third kit, which is quite striking. The owner status, Mr. Kroenke loves the club. Obviously, it makes him lots of money, so he probably would like the club, and I think he will probably stay for our entire reign. In terms of their professional status, obviously being a Premier League team and having won trophies in the past couple of years, they're a professional team. So, manager, frankly, FM24. We have 3-star reputation, and we are balanced. Obviously, not playing any games means that none of that information is available down there. Looking at the stadium then, so we play our home games at the Emirates Stadium. You can see it nicely on display in the middle of the screen. It was built in 2006. It holds 60,704 people, so a decent sized stadium for an Arsenal team that are looking to go places. Looking at the top players that are available at the club, so we have Martin Odegaard. You can see that he plays in a number of positions, a 23-year-old elite attacking midfielder. He has come to Arsenal via the way of Real Madrid, and he made his path there by being a wonder kid in previous FMs. A player who has kind of taken a while to make his mark. I think he had certain loans at other clubs. Real Sociedad, I think, sticks to mind, and then maybe there was another one, but he's a player that obviously has bags of talent. He just needed a manager, I think, to kind of pick away at the surface and get that out of him, and certainly going and playing under Mikel Arteta has done that for him. Hopefully we can continue to nurture that. We're going to keep him on as club captain. I think he's going to be an influential player in the game. 23 years old, though, is quite young for a club captain, but I suppose the old saying is, if you're old enough, you're good enough. So yeah, I think we are good with Martin Odegaard. Key player then is Gabriel Jesus, a big money signing in the summer in real life from Manchester City. Obviously comes across in the game too. A 25-year-old elite striker. I think Gabriel Jesus probably is one of those players that you forget that he's only 25 because he's been at Manchester City for such a long time. Broke through very young, scoring goals from a young age. Obviously now has settled into the Premier League and is one of those shrewd signings that Mikel Arteta went back to Manchester City, where obviously he was an assistant before, knows the player, knows the style of football that he wants to play, and Gabriel Jesus will do everything that Mikel Arteta needs of him. And then, as we mentioned earlier, Charlie Patino is our hot prospect. He is out on loan at Blackpool to begin the game. He's one that I will look forward to getting back in the future. So, fixtures and results, we have a couple of games already in the bag. Didn't really want to just start at the start of pre-season. We've kind of jumped forwards to that gap where we have one more pre-season game to go, and then we are straight into a Premier League campaign that begins with Brighton and Everton. Looking at honours, so they have won the Premier League, or the Old English First Division, 13 times, I think that's said. Yes, 13 times. So 1931, 33, 34, 35, 38, 48, 53, 71, 89, 91, 98, 2002 and 2004. So to bring the title back to Arsenal would be a big deal. They haven't won the league for 18 years. And when you consider they had that period of dominance, like I said, 98, 02, 04, they had the invincible season to go along with that too. It basically is a long, long time for a club like Arsenal, who have had players like Thierry Henry, Robert Pires, Ian Wright. They had Arsene Wenger at the club, obviously. It's a long, long time to go with no Premier League titles. They have won a European Cup Winners' Cup in 1994, and they won the Europa League in 1970 under the guise of the UEFA Cup. If we scroll along, you can see they are very successful in the FA Cup, winning it most recently in 2020. They also have won the Carabao Cup twice, 1987 and 1993. 93, I think, was the year when John Morrow got through in the air, or Steve Morrow got through in the air and got dropped and dislocated his shoulder. Paul Merson was playing that day. And obviously, most famously, Arsenal probably would have won it in, was it 2010 or 2011 when Birmingham won it, because Arsenal just, gifted them a trophy. Community Shield 16 times. So obviously a club steeped in history, and one that we need to go and restore that history for. So the little clue as to what the tactic is, you might not be able to see it just around me here, but it's saying that Arsenal would like to play with a 4-2-3-1, and currently the team is set up with Ramsdale, Tierney, White, Holding, Tomiyasu, Sambi Lokonga, Zinchenko as two holders. Then you've got Smith Rowe, Odegaard and Vieira, and you've got Eddie Nketiah up top. So a little hint, I'm not going to be playing that formation, but that brings me nicely on to the next part of the video. Let's have a little look at what tactic we do pick and show you exactly what we're going to do with it. Here we go then, this is the moment we reveal the crazy tactic, and I'll be perfectly honest, I have been on holiday and I sat and I kind of dreamt this tactic up. It's all my own work. I have been told and seen on various platforms tactics in FM23 are very, very difficult. I have it on good authority by people who test tactics quite regularly that it's difficult to get one that works for most teams. All I'm hoping for is this just works for my beta team. So let's talk you through the tactic. It looks really wonky and it's designed that way. I'm thinking that FM23 might be a little bit more intelligent than FM22, and obviously the match engine is designed to play a little bit differently. So what my thinking is, we'll just try and confuse it. So we kind of have a 4-2-2-2, if that makes any sense. It basically is a sweeper keeper at the back, which, if we look at the options as to who will be playing there, no shock to see Aaron Ramsdale will be our man. Then we have a wing-back on the left that is set to attack, and we are going to probably be playing Kieran Tierney in that slot there. Then we have two ball-playing defenders on cover. So let's throw two players in. We've got Saliba on one side and probably White on the other. And then through the middle, we have a central defender who will probably be Gabriel. So defence is set up asymmetrical. You can see that we are looking to shift the attacks of our opponents to our right-hand side. And then that leaves us with a nice path, hopefully, down the left of our side of the pitch to get the ball from Tierney to that IF at the top. It means that when we get to that DW on the right-hand side, they are going to have to be coming back and defending in that gap that is left between White and the right hand side of the pitch. But we've got players to go before there. So we have two ball winning midfielders. We have one set on defend, and in all honesty that is probably going to be Granit Xhaka. We then have a ball winning midfielder on support, which probably at the start of the game will be Sambi Lokonga. And then we have a Mazzala on attack, and that is probably going to be Martin Odegaard. So you can see the team is starting to set up. It is hopefully going to be defensively sound through the middle of the park. Obviously, we're shifting the play out to one side to try and trick our opponents into just coming down our right-hand side as we're attacking, so their left-hand side, and then we can obviously move the ball in different ways. So that defensive winger on the right-hand side, who is set to defend, I am actually going to trust Bukayo Saka in this role. Now you can see Saka doesn't really play there. He isn't suited to the position, but I've seen on other games that he can fill in as a wing back. So with that experience behind him, my thinking is if anybody can play this position from the get-go and make this tactic work, it's going to be Bukayo Saka. Might have to look in the future at signing one or two other players to rotate with him. It might be that Zinchenko actually goes over there too and tries to cover, or we try and just teach through training a player to play in that position. But either way, that is how we're going to set up pretty much in our own half, with Odegaard just breaking forward. So we're only going to have 3 players really who are over the halfway line in a natural position. The next one then to cover is that inside forward, and obviously in real life Gabriel Martinelli would play as a wide player, and that is the player we are going to be trusting out on the left hand side. And then up top, obviously big money man, the signing himself, Gabriel Jesus, will play as an advanced forward. You can see already Tierney and Martinelli have built a good rapport on the left hand side. Yeah, it's going to come down to whether Saka can hold attacks on the right-hand side himself, and whether Xhaka and Odegaard can come across and assist him. Obviously, if Odegaard goes into the channel ahead of him, Saka can drop back. If Xhaka can cover him behind him, then he can hold position. And it's going to be difficult to see whether players are going to try and exploit that, whether the match engine knows there is a big gap on that side of the pitch and they will just constantly hammer me down that side. It's going to be interesting going forwards to see how the tactic will hold up. If you want me to show you everything else, so it's a custom Gegenpress. In possession stats look like this. The in transition looks like this. And the out of possession looks like this. So if you want to copy it or have a go, feel free to pause the video, write down the instructions, or just port them straight across. I will also, if I remember, my brain is bad sometimes, but if I remember, I will leave a link in the description to that as well, so you can have a go with the tactic and see if it works for you. I have a feeling that we are going to trick the computer into not going for the obvious. I think they're going to try and go through the middle, and we'll have a chance at playing that asymmetric tactic, which I think is going to trick a lot of teams. Right then, so we have that in the book as well now. Let's have a little look at the club finances, because that comes with a little caveat, and then we'll jump into the squad and that squad planner and show you exactly what is happening in terms of the new features for that tab. Let's have a little breakdown then of Arsenal's finances. We're not going to spend too much time on this screen, obviously. You can see Arsenal start the game off with £50.4 million in the bank. So in real life, they had quite a heavy outlay in the 22 summer window. So building up to 22-23 season, they went out and spent money on Zinchenko. They bought Fabio Vieira. They bought Gabriel Jesus. I think there was 1 or 2 other signings in there as well. We'll cover that off in the squad in a second. But they did have quite a big outlay. You can see in the figures that Arsenal are quite a secure club. £50 million as a starting balance is quite good. And then the one caveat we need to address is on the right hand side of the screen. You can see the transfer budget is 0. And that is because, as always with these saves, we are starting with the first window disabled. So that means that we are going to get to January at least. Yeah, we're going to get to the end of January, beginning of February at least, with the squad that we have, and we have to make it work. And the fairness for that is that all the players will get a chance to impress, and then we will get a true picture of where we need to improve, what needs to go where, and who needs to maybe be moved on. And you know, those contracts that we looked at the start hopefully will have come in, and the ones that can't agree contracts will probably moved on. But it gives us a good picture of where we are, and not letting anybody else do any business means that we have a level playing field going into that winter transfer window. And if we need to go and get reinforcements, hopefully we can just go and cherry pick the players that we want, and by that point that transfer budget will fill in. Looking lastly at the wage budget then, so they have a current spend of £1.985 million, and our wage budget is £2.243 million. So a nice amount of money in there if we get that transfer budget in the winter transfer window. So Arsenal are a club that are pretty stable. I know they went through a lot of years where they built the stadium. They didn't spend a lot of money. They weren't investing really in the team, but I've got a feeling they've turned that corner now. They're pretty close to paying off a lot of the debts, and I think the stadium is now paying for itself, which is always good for them. And I do think that Arsenal are a club that in the future will have more money to spend as those debts get reduced, and obviously the stadium starts paying for itself. So let's having a little look next at, where should we go next? So we've done the tactics, we've done the finances, we've done the club info, club vision sorted. So let's just have a little look at the squad, see if we can plan where we might be a little bit weak, and look at that squad planner to maybe see what the squad will look like in a couple of years' time. Here we go then, this is the squad that you'll start the game with if you choose to be Arsenal. Now you can see they start off with quite a few players out on loan. Not really interested in the loan players to begin with, so we're going to hit filter and we're going to get rid of the players that are not at the club. So you can see a true reflection of what the squad looks like. Now it's not the biggest squad in the world, obviously, once you get rid of the loan players. But you can see you do start out with a decent enough spine. And obviously in real life, as I said, they have started off fantastically in the Premier League. And you should be able to mould this team into what Mikel Arteta was doing in real life in the game too. So let's quickly run through some of these players then. So we start off, we have what I feel should be England's #1 goalkeeper going into the World Cup. Obviously, Jordan Pickford has done his thing where he'll pick up his form in the weeks running up to the World Cup. We are not too far away. I think it's about 3 weeks away from the World Cup. If it was me, Aaron Ramsdale would be the man. You can see by his stats, he is a goalkeeper that has gone from strength to strength, and he was ridiculed for the Bournemouth and Sheffield United connections. Obviously, relegations come with that. But as soon as he made that leap to Arsenal, got into their first team, dislodged Leno, you just knew he was going to be an absolute baller in goal. And let's face it, Ramsdale should be the England #1. Our other goalkeeper is Matt Turner, who I believe came to the club from New England Revolution. Go Revs. Yeah, another goalkeeper who fits the bill of pretty much what they would want. 191 centimetres tall, 28 years old. He's a backup goalkeeper. It says fringe player who could still improve. Probably won't get much game time because of how good Ramsdale is. So we then have Gabriel. He is a best centre-back. I'm going to probably go on record and say that. He came from Lille and pretty much went straight into the first team. Been there ever since. Yeah, solid enough as a player. We have Rob Holding still at the club. Don't know how much longer he's going to be at the club. He's a good utility player, but not one that I really will use. Ben White came from Brighton. Also went via Leeds. Also played for Peterborough. But you get my gist. He's kind of gone through clubs to get to the top, and he deserves his chance. He's a solid enough centre-back. Rough and ready. Another one, 185 centimetres, 78 kilos in weight, 24 years old, English defender. I think he's sound and will be at the club probably as long as I am. We have William Saliba. He's only 21 years old. Don't be deceived by his picture. He looks a lot older than 21. But yeah, 21 years old, 192 centimetres, valued 68 to 90 million pounds. Has all the attributes that we need for either our ball-playing defender or our central defender, and another one who will be at the club for the long term. We have Tomiyasu, Cedric, Kieran Tierney. Let's show you him quickly. Like I said, I put him in the lineup on the left-hand side. That's probably where he will line up. Can play on the right-hand side too and can be a makeshift centre-back. Don't really want him in those positions though. Sound enough, and one of those where I think Scotland really have problems when you consider how they try and get him and Andy Robertson in the same team. Zinchenko obviously can be a mobile player, can be anything you really want. He is a dream player when you look at his little grid in terms of his positions. Could play pretty much everywhere apart from centre-back. He's even had a go at striker at some point. Yeah, Manchester City probably should have been keeping hold of him. It's difficult when you have all the options and the money that they have. But fair play to Mikel Arteta. He came, he took him to Arsenal. He's sound. We then got Sambi Lokonga. He's a player who I had on either FM22 or FM21. Could see the talent was there straight away. Knew he was going to be a great player, and as soon as he went to Arsenal, you're just waiting for him to develop into that player you know he can be. Hopefully we'll get that out of him. We've got Thomas Partey. We've got Granit Xhaka. Martin Odegaard, as I was saying, club captain, going to keep him as the captain. I think that's essential. Have a bit of unity. Yeah, so the clubs I was trying to mention earlier, Heerenveen, Vitesse. He went to Sociedad, Real Madrid, and then Arsenal. So, been around a bit for a 23-year-old, but he's still got bags and bags of potential and promise, and I think he will be important for us. We've got Fabio Vieira, Emil Smith-Rowe. Let's have a quick look at him. Player, obviously, for the future, 21 years old, rated 71 to 83 million pounds. In real life, pulled up with an injury recently, so kind of out of the headlines, but he can play anywhere across that middle three, can play as a true midfielder or an attacking midfielder, so no issues with him, hopefully. He's timed down to a long-term contract and keep him at the club. We've then got Mr. Saka, that everybody knows about, obviously. As I said, you can see he can play as a makeshift left-back, he can play as a makeshift right-back, and he also has that complete wing-back here, like wing-back as a right. He's unconvincing, but he can play as a right midfielder. He's competent, and his pace and his stamina, I think, will help us on that right-hand side of the pitch where we have that big gap. Then moving on to the front, we've got Gabriel Jesus himself. As I said, Manchester City pretty much got a bargain for this guy. 25 years old, coming into his prime, scores goals, makes movements that drag defenders away from other players. Absolute dream to watch, unfortunately, in real life. But for us, hopefully, he's going to take that form with him. And then we have Gabriel Martinelli, the kid who is now coming good, the Brazilian who's been at the club for a little while. Wasn't 100% sure on him, I'll be honest, but as he's getting older and he's getting more mature and he's playing in a position now that Arteta trusts him, he's a kid who is starting to come good, and I think in real life he will come good. In the game, I'm hoping he can fill that wide left gap. So let's have a little look finally at the squad planner, so you can see this is new for the game. Here on the left hand side we have all the positions on the pitch, and it sets it up quite nicely. It's exactly as we've got it, almost to a T. It says defender left, but it's actually a wing back, isn't it? So we've got two ball playing defenders and a centre back. So to find out the best way of doing this, obviously in your current season, if you want to see who your best players are, you can rank them, but obviously it starts off, it's ranked. You can also ask your assistant to rank your players. You can see as a left back, Zinchenko is ahead of Tierney, but only just. Zinchenko plays so many positions, we probably won't play him as a left-back as much as it might think. We then have the three centre-back positions, and again, those players are there. You've got the two ball-winning midfielders, so Thomas Partey comes out as the best, and then Zinchenko comes out as the best there. I'd actually push Granit Xhaka up above Partey there. On the right-hand side, we've got two players that can play there, so Zinchenko and Reece Nelson. Obviously, it doesn't include Saka because he's competent there, but that's the position that we are going to look to play him in. Midfielder, centre, so this is the Mazzala. Zinchenko coming out top of that list, but you've got Lokonga, Odegaard, Xhaka and Vieira who can play there too. Attacking midfielder, so for the inside forward, you've got Saka who is more suited to that position. You've also got Zinchenko, Jesus, Vieira, Martinelli, Smith-Rowe. So again, Martinelli will probably be playing in that gap there. And then up top, Gabriel Jesus, Martinelli, Eddie Nketiah, Marquinhos and George Lewis. But if you want to play devil's advocate and see what happens next season, it will add players that are not at the club, and they will come onto the list and show you roughly in terms of their potential and their role ability where they will fit back into your team. So for example, we got Nuno Tavares there out on loan. You can see he's a 3-star role ability and a 3.5-star potential ability, so he could come back in and jump over Cedric, for example, and you even get to see the season after that. So you can see that Zinchenko, Tierney, Tavares and Rule Walters, who is a player who is in our youth team, by that point, after 3 seasons, he should be pushing his way into the first team and having a competitive look at left back. So that is how that works. The last thing to look at then is the best 11 report. Let's have a quick look at that. So it's saying that Ramsdale is our best goalkeeper. Now I believe this works in a way where you've got the best player in the position and then the best youth player, because the only way I can work this out is by looking, say, at Ramsdale. You got Ramsdale, who's the clear number 1 goalkeeper at the club, but it's got Rojas. What's his surname? Rojas Fedorushenko Alexei Rokas Fedorchenko, who is Arsenal's under-18s goalkeeper, and it is comparing him to Ramsdale. So when you're looking at your best 11, obviously that is your best 11 and then your best prospect. So there's no need to just go and throw him straight into the first team. They can still develop, but those are the players that you should probably jot down or keep checking in your dev centre and pushing them forwards, because if they can get into the first team down the line, this is where you are going to see it first. And obviously that is the opinion of my assistant manager. He's telling us exactly the players that he thinks are going to be coming through. So that is pretty much the intro to the start of the series. We are going to be cracking on in tomorrow's episode. I'm going to push through to the end of the first transfer window. So that's going to be the Winter 22 window. In fact, what I might do first is stop at the World Cup, because obviously if we stop at the World Cup, you'll see exactly what's happening in the Premier League. You can see how the tactic is working. Then for part 3, if we go to the end of the transfer window, you can see the players that have come in. So a nice little split of how we're going to break this one down. I think, as I said, it possibly could run to the end of the beta, but there is a good chance that we will pass the beta and maybe finish this one before we start the main series, which is going to be Coventry City, if you are going to stick around long enough to watch that. But for this one, I'm going to leave it there. I did suggest earlier that I was going to give away a few players that I might look at signing. There was only one player really that I wanted to sign. It was Jude Bellingham, and Arsenal cannot afford him. So going into the winter transfer window, you're going to have to look out to see if I can lie, cheat, borrow, steal, whatever it takes to get Jude Bellingham, because he's my number one transfer target for this series. I want to see him playing in my team at Arsenal. You're going to have to stay tuned to find out if I can do it. So if you've enjoyed this episode, again, please don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to stay up to date with everything going on here on the channel, hit the notification bell and you will never miss another video ever again. If you want more inspiration, whether it be for FM23 or you want to go back and check out the FM22 content, hit up the channel. There is other content on here. There will be something for everybody. There's Let's Plays, there's tactics, there's Wonder Kids, there's suggestions for the videos, there are tutorials. There is something for everybody, and if you find something else, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button on that video too. Why not drop a comment to say I found something else out on the channel that I enjoy. But for this one, I'm going to leave it there. I shall catch you on the next episode when we start the Premier League campaign and we will jump forward to the World Cup break.